happens next in Israel? Part 2. The Kaiser of the German Empire visited Jerusalem in 1898. An armed Turkish soldier is part of the security for the Kaiser and his entourage. Germany had already sent Turkey General Otto Lehmann von Sanders in 1913 to head their military mission over the objections of other European powers. Russia, particularly, was incensed, seeing this as a move by Germany to control Russian access to the Mediterranean and the West. Mobilization of troops was already in progress when a secret treaty was signed between the two empires on August the 2nd, 1914. The pro-British faction in the Ottoman Empire nearly prevailed over the pro-German faction. In return for receiving aid, Turkey agreed to attack Russia. Some in Turkey believed that a victorious war was needed to get over recent Turkish losses. Leaders of the Central Powers, left to right. Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany, Kaiser and King Franz Joseph of Austria-Hungary, Sultan Mehmed V of the Ottoman Empire, and Tsar Ferdinand of Bulgaria. In this photo, we see Austro-Hungarian soldiers marching up Mount Zion in Jerusalem in the Ottoman Empire during a World War I Middle Eastern campaign. The Suez Canal was a strategic link in the sea lanes connecting Britain and India. The Ottomans attacked it from the Sinai in January 1915 and again in April 1916, but both assaults were repulsed. Great Britain had begun deploying large numbers of its Dominion forces in Egypt in preparation for the Gallipoli campaign. But once that campaign failed, many of those troops returned to Egypt so that the defensive war along the Suez could be turned into offensive operations. The Arab revolt against the Ottoman Empire is depicted in this postcard. Lawrence of Arabia was one of the British agents who helped the Arabs. On November 2nd, 1917, the Balfour Declaration gave British support for Jewish emigration to a homeland in what was called Palestine. Here we see a photo of Arthur James Balfour. You are encouraged to pause this presentation to be able to gather all the details that are in it, as I've said in the first presentation. Arab prophecy. When the Nile flows into Gaza, Al-Nebi, God's prophet from the west, will drive the Turk from Jerusalem. A Turkish saying was based on this prophecy. In 1917, the British government sent General Allenby to capture Jerusalem. You will later see the great significance of that name. A Turkish Janissary marching band is shown here in this photo. The Turks had a saying, when the waters of the Nile flow into Gaza, then will a prophet of the Lord come and drive the Turks out of this land, signifying that as surely as it was impossible for the waters of the Nile to flow across the many miles of desert to Gaza, so it was impossible that men could drive them out. The Turks are shown here marching during World War I. One of the first things Allenby's troops did was to build a canal east from the Nile River in Egypt into the Sinai. In order to supply troops crossing the desert. The waters of the Nile were brought by engineers through a pipeline which they laid under the Suez Canal and across the desert. So the waters of the Nile flowed into the Sinai at a rate of many thousands of gallons a day. When the British started to lay pipes to pump water from the Nile River to their troops in the Sinai Peninsula, the suspicious Turks began to be discouraged. Here we see Ottoman artillerymen at Heredia in 1917. How could General Allenby capture Jerusalem without destroying sacred sites in the Holy City? See more in What Happens Next in Israel, Part 3. For more information and ways that you can help us to blow the trumpet in Zion and sound an alarm, you may contact us, Hope of Israel, Tikva Yisrael, by email at shlomo1335@gmail.com. Ask for Shlomo. I'm Yisrael Kai.